Welcome back to Dusk Chapters. Dim the lights, settle in, and let the day fall away. Tonight's story is an old tale from the German countryside, carried down through years of firelit evenings and whispered retellings. The story of the Bremen Town Musicians. Let your shoulders soften into the mattress. Let your breath slow to the pace of a lantern swinging gently on a porch. And let this gentle old story carry you off towards sleep. Once, in a quiet green corner of the world, where the roads were dusty and soft with summer, and the hedgerows hummed low with insects in the warm afternoons, there lived a donkey. He had spent the whole of his long life carrying sacks of grain to the mill, walking the same slow path every day beneath the same wide sky, his hooves falling in a patient, familiar rhythm on the dirt road. Season after season he had done this work without complaint, feeling the sun warm his back in summer and the cold mist settle on his ears in autumn. And for many, many years he had been glad of his small stable at night, glad of his manger of hay, glad of the quiet company of his own tired breathing after a long day's work. But donkeys, like all of us, grow old. And there came a time when his legs grew slow, and his strength began to fade like a lamp burning down to its last soft glow, and his master began to think that perhaps the old donkey's working days were done. Now, our donkeys sense this the way one senses a change in weather long before the first drop of rain. A stillness in the air, a certain look, a certain quiet. And rather than wait to see what his master might decide for him, the donkey thought instead of that far-off city he had heard travelers speak of on the road, a city called Bremen, where it was said he might become a town musician, for after all, he thought, with a small private smile, he did have a fine, deep voice. So on a soft evening, when the sky had gone the color of a ripe peach and the swallows were dipping low over the fields, the donkey set off along the road toward men, his ears swaying gently with each unhurried step, his shadow growing long and thin behind him in the fading light. He had not gone very far, perhaps no farther than a few slow, easy miles, when he came upon a hunting dog lying at the edge of the road, panting softly, his sides rising and falling with each tired breath, as though he had run a very long way and simply could not run any farther. "Good evening, friend," said the donkey gently. "Why do you lie here looking so worn through, as though every bit of joy had gone out of your bones?" "Ah," sighed the dog, resting his chin upon his paws, "I am simply growing old, and each day I grow a little slower on the hunt, and so my master has begun to think I am no longer of much use to him. I ran off before anything more could be decided, but now I hardly know how I shall find my supper." The donkey nodded slowly, the way one nods when hearing something one understands rather well. "Come with me, then," he said. "I am walking to Bremen, to become a town musician there. You have a fine, deep bark. Come along, and we shall make our music together." The dog, pleased at the thought of such good company, rose and shook the dust gently from his coat, and the two of them walked on together, side by side, their footsteps falling into an easy, matching rhythm beneath the darkening trees. Before long, they came upon a cat sitting in the middle of the road, her face drawn into an expression as long and as dismal as 3 rainy days in a row. Her whiskers drooped, and her tail lay very still behind her. "Now what has troubled you so, old Whisker Face?" asked the donkey kindly, for he had a soft way of speaking to strangers, as though he had known them all his life. "How could I feel anything but low," said the cat, with a small, tired sigh, "when my teeth have grown blunt with age, and I would so much rather doze by the warm hearth than go chasing after mice any more. My mistress spoke of putting me out, and so I thought it best to slip away on my own, quietly, into the evening." "Come with us, then," said the donkey. "We are bound for Bremen. A voice such as yours, soft and low as it is on a moonlit night, would be a fine addition to our music. The cat considered this for a moment, gave a slow, thoughtful blink, and then rose and joined them, walking now a little apart from the others, the way cats do, though never quite so far that she could not hear their voices. The three of them walked on together as the light grew softer still, the sky above deepening into that gentle, dusky blue that comes just before the stars begin to show themselves, one by one, like small lanterns being lit in a great dark hall. Soon they passed by a farmyard, and there upon the gate sat a rooster, crowing out with every ounce of strength he seemed to have left in him, his voice ringing out clear and urgent across the quiet fields. "Whatever is the matter?" asked the donkey, pausing beneath the gate. "Your crowing near shakes the last light from the sky." "Ah," said the rooster, his voice dropping to something softer and sadder now. "I only crowed because tomorrow is a Sunday, and there are guests expected, and I heard the mistress say to the cook, quite plainly, that I was to be made into a good Sunday soup. So I am crowing while I still may, with all the voice I have left." "Well then, Redcomb," said the donkey, "you had much better come along with us than wait here for such a fate. We are on our way to Bremen. Surely anything is better than that, and your voice is a fine, ringing thing. Between the four of us, we shall make music that will be remembered." The rooster liked the sound of this very much, and he fluttered down from the gate, and so all four of them, the donkey, the dog, the cat, and the rooster, continued on together along the quiet road, into the soft blue hush of the evening, none of them quite able to reach the city of Bremen in a single day, but none of them minding very much, for they had found good company, and good company makes any road feel shorter. As the last light faded from the sky and the first stars came out, scattered like grains of salt across the deepening blue, they found themselves at the edge of a forest, and they decided it would be wisest to rest there for the night. The donkey and the dog settled themselves beneath the wide, sheltering branches of a great old tree, while the cat climbed up into the lower boughs, and the rooster, who felt safest up high, flew all the way to the very top, where he could see far out over the treetops in every direction, the way roosters like to do before they settle to sleep. And before closing his eyes, the rooster looked all around, turning his head slowly this way and that, and far off in the darkness he saw a small, warm light glimmering, steady as a single candle in a window. "There is a light yonder," he called down softly to the others. "It looks as though there might be a house not too far from here." "Then let us go there," said the donkey, "for the ground here is hard, and a warm house would suit us far better than this cold forest floor." So the four of them made their way through the trees, following the light as it grew slowly brighter and nearer, until at last they came to a little house glowing warm and golden in the darkness. The donkey, being the tallest, walked up first and looked in through the window, and what he saw made his ears prick up with interest. "Well," he said quietly to the others, "there is a table inside spread with good things to eat and drink, and some fellows are sitting round it, looking very comfortable indeed." "That is just the sort of thing that would suit us," said the rooster softly. Now, the four friends thought and thought about how they might manage to get those men to leave the table so that they themselves might sit down to such a fine supper, and at last the donkey had an idea. He walked up quietly and placed his 4 feet gently upon the windowsill. The dog climbed softly onto the donkey's back. The cat, light and careful, climbed up onto the dog, and the rooster flew up last of all and settled himself upon the cat's head at the very top of this gentle, swaying tower of friends. And then, all together, at a quiet signal, they began to make their music. The donkey brayed low and long, the dog barked, the cat mewed, and the rooster crowed, all four voices rising and blending together into the strangest, most sudden chorus that little house had ever heard, and with a soft crash, they tumbled in through the window, all together in a heap. The men at the table, startled by such an odd and thunderous sound coming so suddenly out of the night, and catching only a strange, shadowy glimpse of the tangle of shapes crashing through the window, thought perhaps some large and unfamiliar creature had come upon them, and, feeling rather uneasy, they quietly slipped out the back door and away into the dark forest, leaving their fine supper behind them, still warm upon the table. And so the four musicians, quite pleased with how well their plan had worked, sat themselves down at the table just as though they had always belonged there, and they ate their fill, a warm, unhurried supper of good bread and fruit and all manner of comfortable things, each of them eating exactly as much as suited him best, until they felt pleasantly drowsy and content. When they had eaten enough, they thought of where they might sleep, each according to his own nature. The donkey went out and laid down upon a soft heap of straw in the yard, feeling the cool night air settle over him like a blanket. The dog curled up just behind the door, where he would feel safe and close to the warmth of the house. The cat found her way to the hearth, where the ashes still held a little of the day's warmth, and she curled herself into a small, contented circle there, purring softly. And the rooster flew up to a beam near the roof, where he could look out at the stars, and there he tucked his head beneath his wing, and, being tired from the long day's journey, all four of them were very soon fast asleep. Now, well after midnight, when the moon had climbed high and the whole forest lay still and silver, the men who had left their supper so suddenly began to feel a little foolish about it, out there in the cold dark woods. So they sent one of their number back to have a quiet look at the house, to see whether it was truly safe to return. This man found the house dark and silent, and thinking all must surely be well, he went inside to light a candle, and, seeing the cat's eyes glowing softly in the dark like two small embers, he mistook them for the last coals of the fire, and reached toward them with a splinter of wood, hoping to catch a flame. But the cat, not caring at all for the sudden disturbance to her rest, gave a soft hiss and reached out a gentle paw, and the startled man drew back in surprise and made his way quickly toward the door, where the dog, waking, gave his leg a light, sleepy nip as he passed. Out in the yard, the donkey, roused by the commotion, gave him a gentle, glancing kick with his hind leg as he hurried by, and up on his beam, the rooster, wide awake now and rather enjoying the excitement, called out his loudest cock-a-doodle-doo into the night. The man ran back to his companions as fast as his legs would carry him, and breathlessly told them that the house was no longer safe at all, that a terrible which lived inside now, who had scratched at him with long fingers, and a man behind the door who had bitten his leg, and out in the yard a great black creature who had struck him with a club, and worst of all, up on the roof, a judge who had called out for the rogue to be brought before him. And hearing all this, the men decided among themselves, quite reasonably, that it would be far better simply to leave that little house alone for good, and never to trouble it again. And so it was that the little house belonged from that night on to the donkey, the dog, the cat, and the rooster. They found they liked it there so well. The warm hearth, the soft straw, the quiet beam beneath the stars, that none of them ever felt the need to travel on to Bremen after all. And there, in that small forest house, safe and warm and well fed, the four old friends lived out their days together, each one glad of the other's company, each one glad, in the end, that the road had brought them together when it did. And that is the story of the Bremen Town Musicians, dear listener, a tale of four tired old friends who, finding themselves no longer wanted where they were, simply walked on together into the dark, and found, at the end of it, a warm hearth and each other. Thank you for spending this quiet evening with Dusk Chapters. Let your eyes rest now. Let the room grow soft and dim around you. And let sleep find you gently, the way it found four weary travelers on a warm forest floor. Good night, sleep well, and we'll see you back here for the next chapter, whenever you're ready to dream again.